But I'll tell you what, this is what I know. And picking up in verse 30 of chapter 11, he says, if I must boast, I will boast of the things that show my weakness. His weakness. He said, I'm going to boast in my weakness. I'm not, because I am one. So I'm just speaking truth. I'm being vulnerable this morning because we have to operate out of our weakness. So I have a diagnosis of combat-related PTSD, depression, anxiety. I have fibromyalgia, and I have chronic fatigue. But I'm not walking in those things anymore. I can't do those things. But me being vulnerable right now and standing before you saying, yeah, you can, because I'm doing it. But why do we have excuses for using our weaknesses as excuses for not letting God show himself strong in those things? It says, though there is nothing to be gained by it, I will go on to visions and revelations of the Lord. When we recognize our weakness, that is when God is shown strong in our lives. Anybody can do what God wants us to do as long as we move out of the way and allow him to do it. 3 times I pleaded with the Lord about this, that it should leave me. But he said to me, I want you to get this, because this is the main point of this whole message. He says, but he said to me, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Paul, he embraced his weakness. He embraced it. Because we have to embrace weakness because God wants to work in us. We can't use our weaknesses as excuses. He prayed for God to remove it, but instead God said, my grace is sufficient for you. You see, Paul learned that in his weakness, that his weakness was not a failure. It was where God's power showed up. Why did you do this in my life? And part of it is because God said, it's because of your weakness, I'm going to be made strong, because if you didn't have that weakness, you would forget about me. Instead of allowing me to be strong in your life. Because some of the stuff that I've done in my life, I've had to stop doing in my life, even though I was really, really, really good at it, was because of those weaknesses. No, look at me through my vulnerabilities and what I'm doing, because what I'm telling you today is because in your weakness, you can do the same stuff. You got to be that. You see, God didn't remove Paul's struggles, but he used them to reveal his strengths in him. Think about who you are, because you've got to acknowledge your weaknesses.